Daily fantasy podcast where I go and look at low and plays and strategies specifically designed for GPPs. This is a show for people who are already informed on daily fantasy sports and all these contests to operate. If you have any questions related to NASCAR, this isn't a stupid question, feel free to shoot them away on Twitter, BrandonCruzDFS. Most importantly, take everything with a grain of salt and use your best judgment when making entries. Additionally, if you have a gambling addiction, that's just not my problem. Check your sense of feelings at the door. We're talking about the Cup Series at Richmond, and by popular demand, the feedback, the messages, we're here. I was going to do an audio only, but I got quite a few messages and comments and stuff asking for the real deal McGill. So we're here back with the video, and we're going to, let's just dive right into it. The reason I wasn't going to do the video in the first spot is because this is kind of the exact same play as last week at Martinsville, but I guess we'll get a bit more into it. I didn't fill in the DNF factor because it's the Cup Series. Everybody's either going to wreck or finish. Even the back markers, they still finish. So not too concerned about DNF factors here. However, the main thing we got to focus on this week is your dominators or lap leaders and who you think it's going to be. So last week I whiffed on Hamlin. He was the only guy I didn't actually have any interest in. So hopefully that doesn't happen again this week. But I currently have ownership to everybody inside the top 10. The rankings in this video is more for, I try and do more like absolutes here so people know the guys that I like and not likes, but hopefully this helps you out here. So starting with Martin Truex Jr., obviously starting on the pole, he should be a contender for the most laps led, for the most fast laps starting on the pole. This is the guy you want starting on the pole here at Richmond. I mean, this guy, if you want to talk about a dominator, I mean, Martin Truex Jr.'s history here at Richmond specifically, not pacifically, specifically, shows that he's going to be a contender here. He should lead a good portion of the race. I would not be shocked if he stays in the lead between stage 1 and 2. Like, if he leads the first two stages, I wouldn't be shocked. And if we're in a situation where, last week how Hamlin kind of led the entire thing, if there's a driver who I think will lead the entire race here, it'll be Truex. I don't think we're going to see just one guy lead. I think we'll probably see 3-2. But that's just me. Obviously, I'm going to be building like 3-4 dominator lineups. I know it didn't work last week, but that's just the way I want to approach these races. And even with that, building those types of lineups, they still you still end up with good guys. And we'll talk about the lineup construction later as we get further down in the starting grid. But I like Truex a lot. Hamlin, I don't like him. I don't like his price. 11,000's a lot, man. That's a lot. I know I didn't play him last week. I didn't see the stuff pointing to him. I looked through the lap-by-lap data, and yeah, sure, he was, the fastest car by far, but trying to find things to point to Hamlin other than, well, nobody's playing him last week or he's going to be low owned. I didn't really find anything that should have pointed me towards Hamlin. So, once again, I'm kind of on the fence about Hamlin. I think he's going to run top 5 the entire race, but I don't think he's going to lead laps. When we move on to Chase Elliott, we're going to move some stuff around over here. When we move on to Chase Elliott, $9,700, this is where I don't mind him at. $9,700 for Elliott. We've seen him run very well at Richmond. We've seen him run well at Phoenix in the past. However, we're not seeing it this year from Hendrick or from this 9 car specifically at the road courses and everything like that. So right now he's probably my least favorite driver here. Yet again, I do have ownership to everybody in the top 10. I have lineups with everybody here, so just putting that out there. But if I had to say, hey, these guys I'm looking at, these guys I'm not looking at. Hamlin, Elliott, and Byron are probably my 3 least favorite guys here. Byron is probably the best of those 3 just because he's cheaper. However, man, seeing how he's ran at the short tracks, just it makes me a little hesitant. I think he could be outscored by people, especially if you put Byron and Austin Cindric head-to-head. I think Cindric wins that every day of the week. And we talked in Dirty Air podcast, Jason and I, about how Austin Cindric, pretty much at this price range, how he's going to work in the lineups and stuff. And so while I'm not a huge Cindric fan, I don't know how much I'll end up having. I think he's by far the best play in the 8K range. And he's a much safer play than Byron. And I don't think Byron's going to get fast laps or lead laps in this race. So that really leads Byron as the odd man out here. So, that's kind of why I'm not so high on Byron. Looking at Logano, absolute killer run at Phoenix. let's see, where was I at here? Looking at his track history. I mean, I like Logano here. The only thing that's hard with Logano is if I'm playing Logano, and I'll show you why I like Harvick and Busch as we get down there. It's hard for me to get lineups with Logano that I actually like. They usually end up being ugly because I'm sacrificing either a Truex or Larson. And if I'm playing Logano with Larson or Truex, man, the lineups get disgusting. So I see more of my Logano lineups being lineups to where he leads, a good portion of the race, or he ends up being the winner. It's hard for me to throw him as one of, those 3 dominators that I just go. He's more like a tier 2. I don't know. I don't have him as a B here, but if I had to rank these 10 guys here, let me do that real quick here, because people like when I do this. I'll talk through everybody else, and then I'll rank them. Larson's my favorite play here. I'm going to have a lot of Larson. I think Larson is underpriced at 10.3. I think he should be at least 10.8 or maybe even the 11s. I think him and Truex are probably the 2 fastest guys here. Ryan Blaney, $9,100. I know this isn't necessarily his best track, but I like him here. In the cool temperatures, I think that's going to help him out. This isn't going to be as hot as other flat tracks that we've seen, and I like Ryan Blaney. I mean, he falls in the category of how I get 3 to 4 dominators in a lineup because he's so cheap. I don't mind him at all. Christopher Bell, I think Christopher Bell runs extremely well here. I think he runs. Looking at how they were running at Phoenix, looking at how they were running at Martinsville, and looking at how they're running in traffic here, I love these 3 guys. I love Larson, Bell. Moving on to Harvick and Busch, I think Harvick's gonna run well. I think Harvick could actually win this race. If he does what he's been doing previously, he should end up with, probably 5th or 4th most DFS points once the day's over. Him at $9,400, he can fit in a lot of lineups as well. And now we get into how I'm getting those 3 to 4 dominator type of lineups. So I'm playing people like Harvick, playing people like Bell, playing people like Larson together, and still paying up for other guys who are running those 3 by themselves there. Kyle Busch, $10,000. Long race, and this is an easier race to get into, rhythm, repetition versus Martinsville, just because at Martinsville you're constantly bumping around, you're around everybody, and Martinsville got crazy last week. I don't imagine that we're going to see those wrecks like we saw last week at Martinsville. So Kyle Busch, I like him a lot. I would not be surprised if we see him inside the top 5 pretty quickly, and I think this is probably Harvick and Busch's best chance so far this year to possibly get a win. So if I had to rank these guys in the top 10, I'd probably do Larson first, Truex second, probably Bell third, probably Logano fourth. I'll do Harvick fifth, and Kyle Busch sixth. And then everybody else, kind of just piles into lineups after that. Probably Blaney next. That's what I would do. Those would probably be my top 10 guys, and these guys are kind of all tied for 8th because I'm just, kind of not really there on these guys. But I got to make sure I get ownership to them because I cannot let what happened last week with Hamlin happen again. I'd be extremely mad. But that's how I would do. Hopefully that helps you guys see how I'm looking at those fellers there. Moving on throughout top 10. So this is where I think a lot of GPPs or a lot of lineups are going to be made in general. And I'm actually going to talk about lineups first before we get into the other guys in the starting grid, as we're 8 minutes into this. I'm trying to hurry it up, guys. So let me make sure this lines up here. Okay, cool. A lot of lineups are going to be made, I think, across the board, GPP, cash, whatever you're playing, even in single entries or not. I think it's going to be 2 10K guys, an 8K guy, a 7K guy, a 6K guy, and a 5K guy. I think that's how most lineups are going to go. That is something that my optimizer liked in the beginning when I was playing everybody. This is typically the type of lineups they were making. However, my lineups, the ones that I'm getting a lot of with my projections and how I kind of want to approach this race, is doing 2 10K guys, 1 9K guy, and then 2 5K guys. And we'll get into the 5K guys that I like. But just to show you the way that I'm approaching this is more of the types of lineups that I'm approaching versus a, kind of straight down the barrel. I'm more top heavy and then bottom heavy at 5K guys, and not even people like LaJoy. We'll talk. I just want to put that out there so you understand where I'm coming from with these. So, Austin Dillon, I'm nervous. Let me move this. Hold on. That's not moving me again. I'm nervous about Austin Dillon because he has not showed the speed that I've wanted to see from him this year, say at Phoenix, and even last year at the Richmond race, the one where it's like, oh my God, Austin Dillon showed up to race. We didn't really see that repeat. And I don't think we will this time around. $7,500 is a bit hard to get to, and I think $7,500 for someone like Austin Dillon, I think he can really kill a lineup if he doesn't perform. And even at a 5x, that I feel like you're sacrificing a lot of plays. You're sacrificing a lot of upside from guys who are cheaper that should finish very similar to Austin Dillon. If Austin Dillon's going to be running anywhere from 13th to 12th to 11th in the race, we got people like Stenhouse, we got people like Priest, we got people like even Chastain, even Reddick, who's slightly more or slightly cheaper that offer similar upside. So my Austin Dillon ownership, I don't think I have any right now, and I don't think I will end up with any. I think Chris Buescher struggles here. He's always been bad here, but look, we've seen him run well at the intermediate tracks this year, the 1.5 miles, and that's where I want to play Buescher. That's the type of races where I want to attack him. I don't want to really attack him here at the short tracks. So, if we're talking in real absolutes, I got to give him the big old F because I don't think he really works out. Tyler Reddick, I don't think he's going to work his way into the top 9. I don't think he's going to lead laps. I don't think he's going to really do anything to, blow our socks off. Same situation with Dillon. Really risky plays, really. I don't see much upside from them. Stenhouse Jr., yet again, we're kind of in the range where you're kind of having to look at stuff. I think he can easily work his way into, or at least hold his position, possibly work his way into the top 10. That's the type of upside that I need in a lineup, certainly for his price. I mean, he works in a lot of lineups, and DraftKings did a good job this week of pricing guys pretty much spread out. Like, we still have the chalk at the 5K range this week, but there's a lot of different routes you could go, and I think we might see Stenhouse with lower ownership than we have seen this year, and he hasn't been extremely high. But this is a race where I think he can hold his own and possibly get up through the field. So I like him there. Bubba Wallace, 7,300. Same situation with Tyler Reddick. Same situation with Austin Dillon. Kind of starting where he should finish. And if anything, I think he is going to struggle here in terms of speed. Now, they might do something crazy like they have been at Phoenix, where they stayed on old tires to try and win the race at the end. I got them laps led. At Martinsville, they stayed out under green. So if they're getting those laps led and stuff, that's how I imagine he gets those. I don't imagine he shows up with a fast car. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh on him. Maybe move Bubba to maybe 9th as a ceiling, but I still think he's going to run around 16th, 15th, 14th a majority of the race. I don't see him really moving through the field a whole lot. If he does, it's going to be because of pit strategy and things of that nature. And I can't, I struggle projecting pit strategy with like 4 to go at a short track. Sorry about that. Still 7,300. Wallace, Reddick, and Dillon, they can really hurt your lineups if they don't perform there. Matt DiBenedetto, same situation, really. Austin Dillon, Tyler Reddick, Wallace, Matt DiBenedetto, Kurt Busch are guys that are, and I said this in the Xfinity series, I want to call them landlocked countries, although they're not countries and they're not fighting over water. But they're more like position locked drivers, to where these guys are all starting where they should finish. And so there's actual upside from guys either starting behind him or guys who are starting here. Stenhouse Jr., who's the cheapest one here, who I think is yet again going to hold his position. If all these guys start and finish exactly where they start, or if they start here and they finish here, Stenhouse is probably going to be the best play just based on his pricing. That's how I would look at it. So that's why kind of all these guys are C's. Chastain, this is more me trying to get different. I end up having him a lot in my lineups to try and get different as like a 6K range or 6K guy, especially the low 6Ks. Like in these, obviously I have. Oh, you can't even read that. What the heck? Obviously my lineups depend at the bottom of who I want, but if I'm building certain lineups and I don't want to be in a 5K range for one of these guys, I can easily play Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and not be in a bad situation. That's kind of why I'm with him at a C. I think he can run, yet again 16th, 13th, somewhere around there. Just due to his price, he's going to end up being probably a better lineup play than somebody like Bubba Wallace, somebody like Matt DiBenedetto, somebody like Kurt Busch, somebody like Tyler Reddick. Now, if these guys, obviously, if they get in the top 10 and Chastain does not, it's not going to work that way. But I don't really see that happening. Like, it's hard for me to make cases where DiBenedetto finishes 8th, Kurt Busch finishes 8th, and a lot of these guys starting inside the top 10 don't finish there. That's kind of where I'm at right here. Ryan Newman, he might have ownership due to the fact that a lot of these types of lineups end on Ryan Newman. I don't love the play. We've seen him run well here. The track history points to him. So if anything, we might have a lot of ownership to Ryan Newman, and I don't necessarily know if that's going to be a good thing right now. I don't know. I think he's going to be chalky. Not purposely. Like I said, you just kind of end up on him. You look at the track position, you're like, okay, well, he's not a bad play, and then you end up putting him in his lineup, and Newman comes in around 20% owned. And at $6,000, no, my bad, at $7,000, I'd much rather pay down for Chastain. I'd much rather pay for people like Colt Custer or people like Priest. And maybe I'll just miss on Newman, but that'll be how it is. Now, Brad Keselowski is a lap leader for me. He is a dominator for me, and I'm playing him. And Jason and I talked about this in the podcast earlier this week, that if I'm playing Keselowski in lineups, I'm playing him to be an expected lap leader or fast lap getter. No, I'm not paying this for place differential. If you're playing Keselowski for place differential at $12,000, sure, I think he's going to lead laps, and I think he'll do well. But if you're just seeing him as a place differential play, I think you're doing it wrong, because I see Keselowski as a lap leader, as a guy who can win this race, as a guy who should show up with a fast car, work his way into the top 8 pretty quickly, and then be able to fight his way up to the front. So I like Keselowski. If I'm throwing him in with these guys, I would probably move him to 3rd. Yeah, I'd probably put Keselowski probably 3rd if I had to rank him in terms of those guys starting inside the top 10 in terms of, potential lap leaders and things of that nature. Colt Custer, $6,800. Not my favorite play here, but I got him projected all right for around, 17th to 15th around there. I don't think that's going to be bad. And he's certainly a better play than, I keep losing my stuff here. Where do I keep going? He's certainly a better point per dollar play than Eric Almirola. I think those guys are pretty much the exact same plays. And if that's the case, I'm just going to go with Colt Custer, despite the fact that I have Eric Almirola projected a little bit better. I just prefer Colt Custer there based on pricing. Now I'm going to talk about the guys that I don't like, then we'll get back to Mcdowell and these guys, because it'll give a little bit of context here. So I don't think I'm going to use Bowman. That's just me. Briscoe, no. Davison, no. Obviously, these bums in the back, not going to really work. So when we're here and we're looking at Michael McDowell, his price is $5,800. Ryan Preece is $5,600. I expect Ryan Preece, this is where the chalk is going to be this week in the 5K range, because no matter how you're building lineups, you're going to end up on Haley as like the last guy in if you're a little bit tight on money. Then it goes LaJoie, Alfredo, Preece. All these guys are going to be there. And I think Preece is actually going to be he might be the highest owned. He's easily in the top 4 highest owned drivers this week. So if that's the case, and I think he's a good play, I'm going to have a lot of Preece as well. I'm going to be trying to be different elsewhere. But if you want to direct pivot off of Preece, I think McDowell works as well. LaJoie, I have them ranked right now in terms of how expensive or how popular I think they should be. Maybe I need to move LaJoie to 2 and Alfredo to 3. LaJoie is a bit harder to get to at $5,700. I feel like if you have that much left, you're either going to go Preece or LaJoie. Probably LaJoie is probably the first preference. Preece is the second, but from the lineups that I'm making, I don't have enough money for LaJoie. That's why I kind of have him ranked as number 3 in terms of chalk or in terms of popularity back here, but that could easily switch depending on if you're building different lineups than me. Either way, these guys are going to be very chalky. Thinking about it, I might have it changed. Either way, I'm gonna see what other people think. I haven't heard anything else. Depending on who seems to be the chalk play in this range, I'm gonna have ownership to all of them, but I'm going to try and get more ownership to the guy that people don't want. Right now, that's seeming like Michael McDowell just in my head, because he's not attractive as the plays in the back. But if he can work his way into the top 20, if he can finish, 18th, 17th, even 14th or something like that, he should easily outscore these guys. If he doesn't do that, obviously, if he kind of holds his position and Justin Haley and LaJoy work their way into the 20s and they're fighting each other, obviously, then it's going to be LaJoy and Haley outscoring him. I mentioned last thing from the Dirty Air podcast earlier this week that I think this range here, the 5K range, McDowell, Priest, Alfredo, Haley, LaJoy, even some of the lower 6K guys, Ross Chastain, who else is there? Even Briscoe and Suarez. I think these guys are all going to be separated by about maybe 10 points between them all. They're kind of going to be all over a blanket. And lineups are going to be, maybe not because of them, but lineups are going to be very close, or the numbers between positions are going to be extremely close. Like, I think probably first, maybe not first, because first usually ends up being a bit higher. So maybe positions, saying that big GPP, the big 15, I would say maybe positions 100 through 500 might be separated by like 3 positions, and it's going to be because of these plays in the back here. It's going to all depend on who you use. It's Priest, Alfredo, Haley, LaJoy. So I'm going to have ownership to all these guys. I hate to be that way, but the ranking, that's kind of how I can be, absolute. But I'm going to have ownership to all these guys, and I'm playing pretty much every guy in the top 10, just hoping I can, backdoor my way into the optimal lineup. Yet again, probably my favorite play up top is probably Kyle Larson. I think he and Truex should go head to head. That's probably Brad Keselowski. Favorite low ownership player, favorite guy to get different on, probably Ross Chastain again. He has to do well, and there's not a lot of data point of Ross Chastain really blowing our socks off here, but if everybody's seeing that and they're not going to play Ross Chastain, I think I got to work him into some lineups. Might be the same situation where he's low owned and he does same thing he did at Atlanta for us, so we'll have to see there. I think that's about it, guys. If you would want more information, if you want to see what I'm looking at, check out my Patreon. If you want to support me, you can do it through there. You can do it through PayPal. I'm not sure what time I'm going to do the live streams tomorrow and Sunday. Debating on that. I'll probably do it through OBS, so I don't know if I'll schedule them before or after. I might just start and be like, hey, I'm going to be live for the next 30 minutes. Might do that. But thank you guys for all the feedback. I got a lot of feedback in terms of lineup, or in terms of the live show and what you guys want to see, in terms of, just how I'm doing stuff. So I do appreciate that, guys. Best of luck this week. And, thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you.